I know they're playing simulated / intersport games right now, trying to get guys as many uh, opportunities to pitch to and bat against, as live as you can get. But even once the season starts, the notch gets turned up just a few more clicks. And so that'll be interesting as part of the time. I think that pitchers probably have a little bit of an advantage in short camp.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. One thing we talked about, we mentioned too, is kind of some of the younger teams. So like the White Sox, like they got a nice young team. They're pretty hot. Everybody's pretty. I mean, obviously the favorites right now, Yankees, Dodgers, they're all pretty young too. White Sox are up there, but the Royals got some young guys, and you talked about that. Who are a couple of the players that maybe people don't know that they need to watch out for this upcoming season?
Well, one player everybody is raving about is Bobby Witt Jr. I don't feel like it's probably time for him, uh, at least at this stage, to be exposed to the major leagues. He's being exposed as far as the camp is concerned, but he's a young talent. He's got a very bright future ahead of him, and you put him into major league action now. Can he survive? Who knows? Talent set wise, yes, but you don't want to hinder his development. You don't want to set him back. So this 60-man player pool that they're working on with now has a lot of young and inexperienced players with no major league service, and they probably won't get major league service unless there's a very extreme circumstance that would call for that. But it's a chance for those players to be around major league, talent, see how they go about their business, learn from guys like Alex Gordon and Whit Merrifield, and be part of that mix because there are no minor leagues this year, so they need to find a way to get action, to play, and develop it to the best they can under these very trying times. So I think we're going to see a lot of young guys, on the 60-man player pool that you may not see in the major leagues, but at least are getting some repetitions. But when you talk about the young players, to me, you've got the Daniel Lynch's, the Jackson Coars, the Brady Singers, the Chris Bubiches, the guys who, to me, are going to be part of the long-term rotation. Those are guys I look forward to seeing making their debuts at the major leagues. And I don't know if it's going to be on July 24th, coming up when they open up in Cleveland next week, or if it's going to be sometime later on in this very short season. But I think you'll have a chance to see some of these guys break in, maybe if not on the opening day roster at some point during the course of the year. That's what I'm most excited about. I've heard so many scouts, and I like to talk to scouts during the course of the season who have seen our players. Not necessarily our scouts, but scouts from other teams. Because when you hear it from our scouts, you're hearing what you would expect to hear. This player is going to be a great major league player because we drafted him, we're developing him, and you have that confidence in him. But when you hear it from scouts from other teams who are unbiased, when they can say, hey, this guy is ready to pitch in the major league right now. This guy is one of the best arms I've seen for a long time. When you hear those type comments, it gets you excited. Going back to the early '80s, the Royals brought up a trio of Danny Jackson and Mark Gubza and Brett Saberhagen, and they kind of come through together, and eventually they become key ingredients in a Royals first World Series in 1985. I mean, they were able to help get them to that point. And I think you look at this group of young pitchers that I mentioned, they have the ability to have that same impact on a rotation for a long period of time to come.
That's fantastic. Now, do you think this shortened season is going to benefit kind of our young team? Do you think they'll be able to maybe do some damage? I know Vegas has kind of set the over-under at 24.5 wins. Where do you kind of see this team fitting in this year?
Well, I think there's probably a better chance of being competitive or contending in a short season than a long season for a team like the Royals. I still feel like going into the middle of last summer, I think the front office felt like this was not going to be a year where they're going to be a competitive team. They're still developing. They're still going to expose some of these younger players to the major leagues during the course of the season. So 2021 was probably more of a a realistic target as far as being a contending team.
Mm-hmm.
But if you condense a season to 60 games, it really essentially becomes a sprint. And, I mean, think about it this way. If you go out and you win 8 out of 10 baseball games, and good teams and bad teams both do that during the course of the season. They'll win 8 out of 10 baseball games. If you do it in a short season, that's essentially like winning 25 out of 30. And, it puts you in a really, really good position to do some damage and be a team. So I think a younger team, a team that essentially was not going to be a contending team in a long season, probably has a little more realistic chance of being a contending team. However, you think about it, all 30 teams realize exactly what's at stake, and they're going to come out, and they're going to have the fangs out. They're going to be, looking to do some damage early in the season. I think, whether it be the Royals or it be the Marlins or be the Cincinnati Reds, whoever it is, they're going to realize that they have to get off to a good start. And really good teams, the favorites, so to speak, the Astros and the Dodgers and the Yankees, those teams also realize that, hey, we can't afford to go 2-8 to start the season because, that's essentially like coming out of the gate going, 5-25. You just can't afford to do that in a very short season.
Yeah, the big thing that I think everybody wants to see is, we're definitely ready to see some live baseball. And so, how excited are the players to kind of get back and as they've been back at the K and been working out together? Yeah,
they're chomping at the bit. I mean, it's tough. It reminds me a little bit of when we went to the strike in 94, 95. Season was canceled. The strike was at the end of August, and the season was canceled. Never had a postseason. You go into the off season, hopeful there's going to be an agreement. There wasn't an agreement. Finally, in early in the year in 1995, we went back to work. But I have a feeling the players kind of felt the same way during this delay. It's just the uncertainty, not knowing if and when baseball is going to come back. As a player, that's the hardest thing because you're still responsible to keep your body in shape and train and be ready in the event that it does happen. And now that it is happening, it's exciting. One, you get a chance to, get back in live action and do the things and be around your buddies and do that. Two, you start getting a paycheck again. So there's a lot of motivation. And one thing that people have asked me about, how will guys get motivated to play with no fans in the ballpark? And my answer is pretty simple. It's like, they're playing for their livelihood. And you shouldn't need a fan to get you adrenalized to perform at a very high level. The competition is enough to motivate you. It's going to be different. It's going to be very unusual watching a baseball game on television, with cardboard cutouts in the stands for fans. But excuse me, that's what we're dealing with.
I would think it would be much harder kind of on the broadcast side of things, not having fans than the actual players because, they are professionals. And like you said, they're playing for their livelihood. That's a really good point. Yes, fans help kind of get you in the flow of the game. But, as far as going out there and playing baseball, that's just what you do, right?
It is. And I think, I'll touch real quickly on the broadcast side of things. We're going to be broadcasting from Kauffman Stadium, both home games and road games. We're not going to be allowed to travel with the team. So when the teams are home, we'll be at the ballpark, watching the game, calling the game, live as we would do, excuse me, in normal circumstances. When the team's on the road, we'll be at the ballpark, watching on monitors, calling the game. So it's going to be a very unique situation from a broadcast standpoint.
Jeff, Jim Bly here. We did that last year. We had a Kansas City Bulldogs semi-pro football game. They didn't want to pay us to send the whole crew on the road, so we sent the camera crew and had to call the game here from studio. It's interesting, and it's kind of different, and but without fans, I don't know if it's going to be that much different, is it?
Well, the broadcast will appear to be different because they're not going to pipe in fan noise. But, I'm sure they'll do their magic. They'll find ways to make it realistic from the camera angle standpoint and making it look as as normal as they possibly can. But you're going to hear some things during the broadcast you normally wouldn't hear because the fan noise would cover up those comments that the players make to the umpire when he calls a strike a ball or when he calls a ball or strike. You're going to hear a lot of those comments. You're going to hear some language probably that's not suitable for younger ears.
Yeah.
So it will create some unique situations for a broadcast.
So that's why I guess Mike. We were trying to get Mike Swanson on after Swanee after you, and he said with throwing in these 2 extra games and all the changes, how is that going to work? Who's going to be like in the booth? You and Joel do your thing, kind of on the sidelines and out pregame, postgame. Is that all going to be the same, or what are the fans going to expect?
So the pregame and postgame, Joel will be in one location, I will be in the other location. I'll be somewhere different. We don't know exactly where that's going to be, but we won't be in the same location because they're going to have us a distance. With regards to Rex and Ryan in the booth is wide enough that they can put them both in the booth. There's actually going to be plexiglass up between the 2 of them, so it's going to be different. It's going to be kind of fun to watch with regard to how Rex does, because there are times when things happen during the course of the game and Rex literally jumps out of the seat and whether it be the players or people in the stands have no idea what's going on because the crowd noise is there and you don't you're not focused on it. But as we know with regards to Rex, he'll make it exciting. And there may be players that hear Rex Hedler making, some of his sounds, his comments that they normally wouldn't notice, normally wouldn't hear because it's going to be kind of quiet out there. My understanding is they're going to allow family members, limited family members, come into the ballpark, but it'll essentially be an empty ballpark. And when Rex jumps out of his seat, I think the players will probably have a good idea what's going on.
So, limited family members, are they going to be sitting in are they going to be in the stands?
Yes, in my understanding, yes.
Okay. Very cool. Another thing I want to ask too is it's kind of switching a little bit back to just kind of how the games are going to work and how the teams are preparing. Are we doing? Is it a traditional 5-man rotation as far as starting pitching goes, or do you think they're going to go with kind of like the shortened, more playoff mode where it's like maybe 3 guys, 4 guys, and then they go bullpen pretty heavy? How do you think that's playing out?
Well, I think one thing, Brad Keller, with being testing positive with the coronavirus, probably puts a little wrinkle in the kind of the traditional thinking because he would have been a guy who would have been, likely one of the starting pitchers, if not their opening day starting pitcher. So you have a little bit of a void. It may be short-lived. It may just be for a time or two through the rotation. So you may be forced to do things a little differently. You may be forced to use an opener as opposed to using a traditional starting pitcher. And again, that's where some of the younger arms that I mentioned earlier, that's where they have a chance to contribute, have a chance to be factors, on the pitching staff. The bullpen has to obviously take advantage of any opportunity, to get outs. They're changed the rules a little bit now. Relief pitchers have to face 3 batters, so that changes a little bit of your mix. But I think they're every day you go to the ballpark to try to win a baseball game, and sometimes that means leaving a pitcher in an extra out, an extra batter, or an extra inning, whatever it might be. I don't think you're going to see anything extreme. You're not going to subject anybody to potential injury or any setbacks physically, but. If you got a hot hand, you may ride him a little bit long. You may run him out there for another inning and just find ways to seal the deal in as many games as you possibly can.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also was kind of thinking about some of the guys, and this is kind of around the league, some of the guys that are going into their contracts are up or they're going into free agency. You think some of those guys will be maybe fighting to pitch a little bit more, the way they can kind of showcase a little bit more, or do you think everybody's just gonna just go business as usual? Because free agency was a topic that's come up because these guys won't be able to get a solid full season of work in. So how do you think this shortened season kind of affects free agency